Welcome into another episode of Behind the Wheelhouse on Trucker Talk Radio. You're on with J and J. I'm Jon. This is Justin, and today we have a special guest, Randy Clifton, with Sunset Transportation. Behind the Wheelhouse is a new show where we sit down with experts, leaders, decision makers driving the transportation world forward. So I'm excited to have you on, Randy. One of the reasons why I want to have him on is because he's been an agent with the same company for the past 20 years, which is really unheard of. So we want to find out
Yes.
what Sunset Transportation is doing right. Randy, welcome to the show.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me.
We feel like it's going to be a great treat to have you on today with all this experience. You've been here since fax machines to Rolodexes all the way up to integration and AI. So
It's when we
I feel
used to
like
write
we
on
get
those things called yellow pads, right? We used
Yellow
to
pads. That's it.
yellow
that's right.
pads.
Well, Randy, before we get to talking about, supply chains and brokerage and things of that nature, tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, and how you got into trucking.
I was born here in Little Rock, Arkansas. Lived here all my life. Just born into a family of truckers. My grandfather had a trucking company. He ran 8 trucks. My dad started driving when he was 18. We actually here at the office, I joke, I have the family history. We've got grandpa, uncle, dad, me, all with our trucks, our very first trucks. I've
That's
got
awesome.
Oh,
a picture of
wow.
my
That
son.
is.
I was brought into trucking my entire life, always been around it, and started my own trucking company, kind of grew, learned a lot of what nots to do. I joke with Steve Williams, I did a mentorship with Maverick, and I joke about him putting me out of business because I went back to my company. I'm like, man, we got to get computers and highway masters and these things. And I bought those high dollar tarps, and I was going to compete with Maverick. But after the trucking side, I've been fortunate enough to sit on all sides of the desk. I've been able to be a shipper, and I've been able to own a trucking company, and now I've been with Sunset as a broker or 3PL, and it's been good being able to see all different sides of it and be able to kind of use that experience to build good relationships.
So what do you like to do for fun, Randy?
Well, I'm recently retired from racing. I was real big into
From
racing off road
Oh,
cars.
okay.
like dirt road race, dirt
Yeah,
track, or
the Champ Off Road Series. They do the trucks, and we
yeah.
raced the
Yeah.
side by sides. And so we had a Can-Am, and we ran all
Oh,
Wisconsin,
wow.
Michigan, all up there racing. And so I've come up racing dirt cars and go karts and motocross, and so I liked racing. But I'm getting too old. They were calling me grandpa out there on the track because everybody's in their 20s and 30s, and I'm not as fast as I used to be. So I figure I better hang it up. So I'm trying to find a new hobby right now. I still play golf. I'm not good at that, but
Yeah.
we play golf. That's about it.
Any kids?
I've got two. My daughter and her husband actually works for me.
Okay.
He's in the office. We're
Okay.
getting ready to open an office in Phoenix, and so they're moving out there and going to open an office for us out there in Phoenix. And then my son lives in San Diego. Him and his wife. They're all grown
Wow.
and out of the house, which is the way we like
That's the
it.
way. Yeah, I've got six.
Oh,
I
mercy.
Yeah.
started early, and now I had my first round is in college or out of college, and then my second round is in elementary school. So I should have been retired right now, but it
You
hasn't really
Yeah.
worked out.
Long way from that. I have one. She's the center of my world. I've been raising her myself for about 10 years now. I've got 2 more years with her in the house before she sets off. So I'm looking forward to the next chapter of that for sure.
There you go. There you go.
And where
Yes,
did you?
sir.
You're in Benton, Arkansas, right?
Yes, that's where I live. Our office is here in Little Rock. We've got a 50,000 square foot warehouse. We rent space and do a lot of cross docks.
Okay,
Mhm.
nice.
Okay.
Are
Yeah.
you a Razorbacks fan?
I basketball. I'm really down
Okay,
on our
see.
football team. Our
I
football, I don't know.
graduated from UK, so
Oh,
you guys
oh
took our
no, Kentucky
coach. Yeah,
Yeah.
Calipari. We struggled the other night, real bad.
team. They beat us too. They're tough.
Yeah. Well, I want to give a kind of like a little summary about what Sunset Transportation is all about. I think you guys have a great history. You were founded by Jim Williams in 1989, but your lineage actually traces back to 1861 with the Williams Paper Company. Company was built on philosophy of relationship-driven logistics, prioritizing trusted small carriers, and that speaks right to Justin and I what we
Yeah.
what we preach every day, and building relationships with these carriers, building relationships with their drivers is so important for the success of any brokerage or any agent. And now you guys are the Lindsay Graves, Jim's daughter. So it's a family run company.
Yep.
She's
Awesome.
she's the CEO. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's super sweet. I met Jim to give you a little bit of how Jim does business. Is he wanted to meet me, and we were going to talk about opening an agency here in Little Rock.
Mm-hmm.
We sat down, and I got the lecture of, all you've got in this business is your word. You got to treat people right. Your cares are just as important as your customers. And he goes, we don't tolerate, lying or, cheating anybody on either side.
Right.
And I said, well, that's how I was raised. I can agree with that. And he said, great. So we shook hands. And so the first year, I didn't even have a contract with him. We just shook hands, and that's how we did it.
That's unheard of now. Handshake deal.
Yeah.
I remember the CFO, he called and he was like, did you ever sign a contract? And I'm like, no, me and Jim just went to lunch and shook hands, and that was it. And he's like, I need you to sign a contract. We don't have nothing on you in file. Okay.
So
Awesome.
who's the ideal customer for Sunset right now? Who's the ideal shipper? Do you guys looking for someone for the full supply chain? Is it just van, reefer, step deck? What's that ideal customer look like?
We've grown so much in the last 20 years. We can actually, I think Sunset's niche is we can work with mega companies. We've done a lot with Tyson, L'Oreal Makeup, Ryder, International, Harvester. We do some big companies, full, complete supply chain packages with the TMS software and the whole thing. But we're also kind of flexible enough we can work with a small mom and pop, the $1 to $2 million a year company that's just getting started. They don't have the resources. And so that's where we can come in and really help them, and kind of get them on a good path as they grow, that they can grow. But I think that's really what's neat about Sunset is we've got all the technology, we've got everything we need in place to run with the big boys. Matter of fact, we were bought out by Armada Food Services 2 years ago. And with us combined, now we're a $5.5 billion company.
Wow. You guys are Transport Topics like number 4, number 3. Is that correct?
We've got 37 agent offices, 7 company offices, and then we've got with Armada now we've got like 55 warehouses across the country that are food grade warehouses.
Okay. Are there any assets under that company, or is it all brokerage?
It's all brokerage,
Okay.
just warehouse space and brokerage. We don't
Okay.
have any.
You guys have cross docking facilities in Laredo, is that correct?
Yes, we have. We've got office in Laredo, and then I think they've added 4 Cortero, more internal Mexico. They've got some offices down there as well.
Well, Randy, for our listeners who might know Sunset's name, could you give us a little agency side, maybe a pitch for, somebody that might be looking for a new home? Definitely with you having 20 years or more experience with them, that speaks volumes not only for yourself, but the company as well. Just let the listeners kind of know what's made that relationship so good for you and worthy enough that to me, I think people should listen and take that opportunity to maybe speak with you or somebody over there at the company.
One of the things that Sunset has been that's helped me is they pretty much they're kind of hands off. They let me run my business. They're there if I need help. They're Johnny on the spot to jump in there and help. They don't micromanage us. My office is a little different. So Little Rock we're based, like I say, we come from a trucking background. We're a little more truck friendly probably than a lot of brokerages are because that's just how I was brought up.
Right.
You got to have a truck always. To me, trucks are just as important as customers. Matter of fact, I kind of do it backwards. I go out and get a truck.
Right.
Then I go into the customer and go, hey, I got this guy and he likes his lane. Let's go make it happen.
That's
So
exactly right.
it's
Yep.
kind of, we do it a little reverse that way. It is something that I think with us, we've got a 10-acre yard. I tell a lot of guys, and we've got several owner ops, 2 truck operations, and we try to run them exclusive if we can. If we've got good round trip freight, we'll put them on it, let them go. But I like to have the guys come by the office and meet us. Come in, have some coffee, let's talk. And that probably goes back from what I learned from Jim. He liked to sit across the desk, talk to you, find out what you wanted to do, and then get a plan and let's go make it happen. So I think that's something that Sunset offers everybody. St. Louis corporate office is the same way. It's still that family feel. I don't like to make it transactional. I would prefer more of a relationship. Let's
Yeah, and it's nice to expand
Yes.
that relationship to the driver. I mean, going in, I used to run my agency the same way. We
Mhm.
talk to fleets, and then we go into customers, and it's much better when you go into a customer and you say, "Hey, I've got 5, 7 trucks, 10 trucks, whatever it may be, that want to
Most
run your
definitely.
lanes or that want to run in this area. Let's all work together."
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And to me, and how our office has always been, once you do that and you get the right carriers and everything's kind of running, it's like you said earlier, it makes your job so much easier. I can pay the
It
carrier.
does.
I don't have to worry about it, and I can go off and work on another project, go try to grow something else. So that's something that Sunset's left us. We don't have to make a certain amount of money on a load. A lot of times we'll lose money on a load. Just take care of that customer, make it happen, do what we got.
Right.
Yeah, it's
So
an old way
Yeah.
of thinking.
I don't think truck drivers realize that all the time. How many times you do take a loss or break even on a load just to keep the customer happy, or even you when you bid on loads, there's some good loads and there's bad loads, and you got to lose on some, but you make it up on others, and it kind of just works itself out. One other thing I did want to touch on with you before we go to our next segment, and you spoke on it a little bit through the podcast, but I want to make sure that we touch on it a little bit more is about your office there in Little Rock. I know probably people, in the Little Rock area, know about it where it's at, but kind of tell us a little bit about what all you have there to offer. I know you said you had a good sized warehouse, so in case there's, carriers in that area that don't know or driving through that might want to stop by, since you are one that I do appreciate that you will take the time to speak with drivers and get to know them, because that's a lost art in our industry. So if you just speak a little bit on, what all you have to offer there facility wise.
yeah, absolutely. We're at 6200 Patterson. We're right here, kind of in what they call Southwest Little Rock,
Mhm.
right off 65th Street. But we've got a 10-acre yard. We've got the warehouse, we've got the cross dock. We did have a shop for a while, but it's kind of like diesel mechanics are about as hard to find good drivers. So he got a better job and he left me. He's doing good, but
That's
we don't,
true.
we don't have that service anymore. But we do have plenty of parking if a guy wants to come in. We've changed insurance companies, which is a touchy subject. We used to let guys come in and they could park overnight. We've got a gated lot. They could come in. They may be loading tomorrow for me. So, but hey, you're in town, come over here. You got a good safe lot you can sleep on. When we changed our warehouse insurance, they have to be employed by us to let us let
Um,
them stay on the
Oh
property.
man,
Insurance always gets in the way.
Yeah, that's
they
kind
do.
of changed. That's upset me. So we're trying to work some things out on that, but we still want the guys to come by.
Yeah.
It's
Hmm.
good to meet them.
Well, there's not a lot of brokerage offices that have parking for trucks.
Yes,
No,
and remember we had a trucking company, so that's
Yeah.
why we still have all
Right.
this.
We have a lot of young listeners, Gen Z, millennials, who are trying to figure out their careers. Do you think a college degree is still necessary for, or is necessary for, this industry? Do you think it's just school of hard knocks where experience wins? What do you recommend this younger generation who's now dealing with AI, I would say, and may tick a lot of people off, but the work ethic isn't exactly there where it used to be.
nope.
And I think COVID had a lot to do with that. So, what do you say to our younger generation that's trying to find their footing, trying to build a foundation, trying to grow a family, and wants to see the same success you've seen over the years?
I didn't go to college. I don't think it's necessary. I think this is a great industry to make a good living without a college degree.
Yeah.
I think the
Hmm.
best thing to do is, as Grandpa said, if you're going to get into it, you gotta know what you're doing, get your CDL, and start driving, and then you can work your way out of that. If you don't want to go that route, I would definitely go to work for a company, learn
Hmm.
the ins and outs, get your training and experience. The thing about the transportation, as far my life has been, it's been relationships.
Yeah.
Every time I meet somebody, my circle increases, and I meet
Yep.
this guy, and you just kind of move and grow, and everything is.
A lot of times it's just, will you pick up the phone? Will you answer the phone?
Right.
Well, now I will tell you, we did a internship with the college, and we had a bunch of kids coming in right out of high school, and they were working in here doing tracking and tracing and different things. And it's funny, the talking on the phone is such a lost art,
People
and
It
are
is.
texting now, right?
Yeah, text or in our
email.
software system, we can send a driver a note, but I'm like, you can learn a lot when you talk to a guy.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And so I was trying to
Well,
explain,
the art of communication is lost, right? I mean,
It has.
people just don't know how to communicate anymore.
no.
Nope.
Well, you're talking to a driver and you can tell his voice, does he think he can make it? You don't sound positive, man. Are you sure? If you can't do it, just let me know. But you don't know that through a text. You're only going to know if you're talking. You
Right.
really need to talk to people. If they can get to that part, that's great. And we've had some really good interns come through. I'm real proud of one of our guys. He ended up worked through us all through high school, went to college, got a job at JB Hunt, got promoted. He's down
Mhm.
in Dallas now working for JB Hunt. He's doing a really good job. Coached him in soccer when he was a little kid, and he's doing good now. I think it's a
Well,
great
that
industry to be in, and I don't think you have to have college.
Yeah.
You have to work hard.
well, that's awesome because that's something else that I've not heard about with companies that really do the internship. My daughter's coming up through the last couple years of high school, and she kind of mentors what I do. I'm trying to keep her away from it to learn something, another trade first, anyway. But that's great because good experience in high school and if you have to love the industry of trucking, in my opinion. You gotta, if you don't have it in your blood, you learn to love it. And like you said, it's a great platform to make a living. I'm not a college graduate either, so I totally get that. But moving off that subject, let's go to the subject that no one likes to talk about. So let's pivot over to the fraud epidemic that we've been dealing with for probably the last 2 years or longer. It's something that is I'd love to fight more. I know you probably do as well. I hear horror stories from drivers every day, from double brokering, identity theft. I'm not far outside of Memphis. Cargo theft has become huge here in Memphis. Well, we do have the military here now, so it has helped stop that a little bit. But you being in Little Rock, you hear about Memphis and the crime all the time. What do you feel about the market where we are with that? I know we spoke on it a little bit before we started the show, but it's uh it's just a crazy time of I've been in it for 20 years. I've never seen anything like it. They're very smart criminals.
Yeah, it
You
feels
know,
like they're getting smarter, right? They're
yes,
constantly changing it up.
they are.
They are. And I hate to bring this up. I think a lot of our problem stems from our government administration not following through and doing their job properly. I really think the buck starts with them because 10, 15 years ago, I could go up and down the road and I knew pretty much every truck on the road where they were based out of, probably had haul a load for me sometime or other. And then up to about 2019, 2020, just before COVID really hit down here, I was seeing trucks every day. I'm like, where'd they come from? Who are they? There were trucks coming up across the border. They were Mexican all over and they weren't NAFTA.
Wow.
They weren't automotive carriers. I could tell. I'm like, where are these guys coming from? And so it's just steadily gotten more and more carriers. And then we had an incident. We were working with a carrier based out of Michigan. None of the drive, they were all non-domicile CDL drivers. The entire company's back office was in India. All the dispatchers was in India. Everything was over there. And I'm like, that's not safe. I mean, honestly, it's just really not. Our government needs to make sure who we are turning loose with these trucks. I mean, that's just a security disaster.
You got a missile on
Yep.
18 wheels.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. So it's really gotten bad, and then so with that, the frauds come right along, and now it's like you said, the organized crime, they're professional criminals, and they've got this down to a science. And it's like I talked to our security. We've got a security IT company that comes in and makes sure we're protected. He goes, they're targeting transportation companies. All
Uh-huh.
these overseas hackers, they are targeting transportation companies right and left. And another thing that's going on right now is, we've kind of been in a recession, freight recession for the last couple of years, and there's a lot of small mom and pop trucking companies that are really hurting. There have been these companies come in overseas and they'll give them $50,000, $100,000 to buy their MC. And they'll take the company just like it is, buy everything up.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. And
Wow.
these people are like, oh great, I just want the money, I'm on out. They're wanting,
Uh-huh.
but then they just run that company in the ground. They use it to, like say, double broker or steal
Mhm.
freight. And then once it's, if they have a wreck or something bad, they just wash their hands of it, and move on to the next one.
Yeah,
That's
it
it.
used to be that you just
Right.
checked the MC number, looked up the credit score,
Oh,
make
yeah.
sure they had good insurance, and then that was it.
Yeah.
And now you're talking about they're buying MC numbers. I mean, it's just
Mhm.
it's crazy.
Well,
And all
well,
the fake emails, I mean, the emails
uh,
are really a big problem.
There was an apartment complex in California that they pulled up, and y'all may have seen this a couple of weeks ago. I think it was on Freight Caviar. It had 37 MC numbers
I did see that,
attached to
yeah.
one
yeah.
address, it's apartment complex. I'm like, that's crazy.
Well, I think you're right about the government, because, after 9/11, everybody was about planes and pilots, but the truckings were never thought about. And they're, like you said, they're a missile. I mean, it's easier to have attack with truckers than it is ever with the airplane.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
not as much involved, and even to the point of what they're going through now with taking CDLs away if you can't speak or read English and stuff. We've all known that in the industry for at least the last couple of years.
Yes,
But
that's true.
no, but the only reason why anything was ever done was because of the viral video that happened with the U-turn wreck in Florida. That
Yes,
was the
absolutely.
only reason why. And, it's kind of like, in my opinion, a lot of people just take trucking for granted
They
and
do.
that they don't understand. I mean, yeah, it's the most important transportation to get your products from point A to point B, but no one sees it as, a way that they can move in and be a threat, or how with the jobs now. We heard yesterday that there could be up to 600,000 CDLs taken away. I mean,
Mhm.
that's like 20% of our trucking drivers out there. It's just crazy. So I agree with you on that for sure.
Yeah, so this brings us to, solutions. And we are Trucker Talk Radio is powered by Ready App. Justin and I have a relationship with
Mhm.
Ready App. Their main focus right now is driver onboarding. But Randy, we talked about just, earlier about vetting the company, how important it is for you guys to vet the company, but it's really important to vet the driver. And Ready App actually offers that. We've been speaking with our investment group. How
Mhm.
important could that be to brokerage when you could, you talked about before we got on the show about vetting driver CDLs. If you could vet a whole driver profile, that driver could show his profile and say he's got the lease for the carrier he's working with. He's got his CDL, he's got his medical card, he's got several different documents as well as a completed DOT application that could help verify that that driver is indeed with that company. Picture in the profile matches his CDL. How important could something like that be?
And it would help us with the fraud. It would also help. We're hearing horror stories now. Companies find they go pick up the load. Next thing you know, they got pulled over. They didn't check the driver, so the driver didn't have a legal CDL. So now ICE got him out of the truck, or he's in trouble. The truck's being impounded, and now they've got to worry about how they're going to get that freight released and take care of the customer. And being able to have all that accessible for the driver, that's just peace of mind for the shipper and the broker. And this is something that we've been trying. I've been really trying to take this back to the shippers, because the shippers, I think some of them are just turning a blind eye, and I think some of them just don't know the dangers that are out there.
Mhm.
We've talked about, how low is a low rate. A lot of shippers are taking the bottom dollar. Well, that
Yeah,
bottom dollar may be a fraud that they don't care if you pay them or not, because they're going to steal your freight anyway.
right.
You
Yeah.
got to really
Right. That's
watch.
true.
So we're trying to take that message back to the shippers as well. They've really got to understand what's going on, and I think that would give the shipper peace of mind, knowing that we know who the driver is, we know who's going to be in their facility loading that load. Um, I think it just would streamline the whole process.
Well, even taking it a step further, I've heard stories about driver, your customer always wants, and the broker's always asking for everything to match up. Driver name, truck number, side of the truck with the DOT. That's something else that we do have it at Ready App, is pictures of all four sides of the truck. So, if you can take the CDL, the picture of the truck, those documents and go ahead and send it to your customer and going, hey, John Smith and a blue Peterbilt with MC number and all that on the side of the truck, they can verify it as well. So then they know who is actually picking up the freight on both sides, because I think in a way that we have gotten to, as you said, everything kind of got lax quite a bit of time. And now with all these new threats, I think if you're a trucking company, a carrier, and you make a process to where they're ready at digital drivers. So you can go in as a broker into your database and go, okay, I'm talking to John Smith, truck number 7242. And you're able to go in to look and you can verify that is a verified driver. Not only are you going to feel more safe, I would think, that's an opportunity, I think, for the industry to give a little to the driver or the carrier and go, hey, you're doing your responsibility. Here's an extra $50 because, in the long run, it helps you with less time being involved worrying and then, lawsuits or all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Here we run probably 30 to 50 loads a day in our office. And every day we turn away 5 to 10 trucks a day because they can't answer a basic question in English. They don't know what we're saying. And so it was like, hey, tell me your axle weights. Me no understand. I don't, and you got to know your axle weights, buddy. I mean, we're already in trouble if you don't know that, but a lot of them just don't have enough English vocabulary. And we're like, man, I'm sorry, I can't use you. And we try to be really nice. I don't fault anybody for coming to this country to make a living. I think we need to probably come up with a better way to take some of these guys, help them get through that language. Let's teach them. Let's train them.
Yeah, it used to be. I mean, I started even with TQL back in the day, and the early 2000s, and it used to be they'd hire people like translators,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's where I think, and they, I know people that have had, Mexican departments so that they can speak the language, and
Yeah.
it just, it's kind of scary. You got these guys who cannot speak a lick of English, but they're driving, they can't read the road signs.
They can't read at all.
No, I can read it all. Yeah, that's terrible.
I've been fortunate. I've traveled, all over the world. I've spent a lot of time in China. Now, I couldn't understand or read a lick of Chinese, Mandarin, or any of it, but everything was written in English, which was fine. I had no problems with it, but we don't have that, here, and we can't. You think about it on an exit sign on interstate, you can't put 20 different languages on there, and it's just not feasible. So I like that idea. I do think we need to try to help, but it's like with you guys, brokers get a bad rep is they everybody on the carrier side think it's y'all's fault why the freight's cheap and
Yes.
why. But you brought it up a second ago, and it's a point that I want to bring up because I'm very big in trying to get this transparency from a owner operator with one truck wanting to get a brokered load. These guys and ladies come over from foreign countries to get a load
Mhm.
and to make a living. They're getting $20 for to their dollar.
Yeah.
So, there's going to be people that exploit that and they're going to take $1.25, $1.50. They're only going to be here for a couple of years. They're trying to get, because we're the only country, in my opinion, in the world that does not take care of a family. It's not rule one as you grow up that you will take care of your parents, you will take care of your grandparents. That's not how our culture is. Every other culture in the world is. So these people come over here trying to make a living. They'll take it at $1.50 because they're going to get over $1 in their pocket. That's something that, I'd like for you to speak on just a little bit to try to help care, these owner operators understand, about your margins, why you have to do these things in a certain way, because I don't think, in my personal opinion, that brokers are the enemy of everybody in the country, because y'all are a necessary part of the business.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I've seen a lot of stuff, and I try not to get in arguments on the social media outlets.
Oh yeah.
It's oh you're making $1,000 a load. I wish I
Mhm.
was making 1,000. Probably in 2009, after the housing crash, rates plummeted. And fuel had been really high in 2008, and then the rates just fell out. And I had his name was Bill Dudley, great guy. been in the industry for years, and he said the problem is, he goes, it's supply and demand, and that's what drives the price. And it doesn't matter how much your truck costs or how much fuel costs. If there's, if the shipper really needs you, they're going to pay. If they don't,
That's right.
it's just the lowest bidder gets it. And then you've got some companies can run cheaper than others. Their cost structure is a little different. But as far as the brokerages go, I'm always competing against other brokers and carriers. Now, I make all our guys know how much it costs to run a truck. That was kind of my first base level. This is what it costs. And really, right now, modern day, you can be anywhere from 235 to 265 is what it's going to cost per mile. The sad thing is the average spot market rate right now is like $1.90. It's terrible. I'm out here, I'm quoting, but I'm quoting against other people. I don't set the price, the market does. And if there's people out there and they're hauling it for $1.50, the shippers are going to do all they can to put it on. Now, what I try to do is explain to them all we're doing is putting people out of business, and that doesn't help anybody.
We are. It's kind of
Yep.
sad. I mean, it's really one of the few industries where you haven't seen any kind of raise. Any that goes for
Mhm.
brokers, drivers, carriers alike. You haven't seen rates go up. I mean, it was $1.60 back in 2006 when I was bidding on
Yep.
furniture. We haven't seen any kind of improvement in that.
We just did a RFQ for a customer that I've done business with for 15 years.
Mhm.
And we were joking about, we were looking at those rates, and I'm like, hang on. So I went digging through the file. I'm within $50 of the same rate we did in 2015.
Yeah.
And look how much more trucks cost, and insurance is doubled. I mean, costs have gone up, and those are rates we're putting the same rates we did 10 years ago. And I probably won't get half of them. I'm going to be too high. So, but that's really the truth of the matter. Everybody thinks somebody's getting rich. I talked to a guy, he did a lease purchase and he was upset. And I was trying to explain to him, yes, you ran 7,000 miles. Yes, you only made $1,500. But be positive because you did bring home some money. Now you worked your tail off to do it. I said, but I want you to know there's a lot of companies and they're losing 20 cents a mile for every mile. They're losing money running up and down the road. It's just a really, really hard market right now. I
Yeah,
know
and
that.
I don't know how you
Yep.
combat it. I mean, we've talked on the technology side about building like a scoring system,
Mhm.
where you'd help, where you'd be able to show that drivers are, number one, they're qualified. Number two, they show up and deliver on time. Number three, they've got great safety scores. They've got their act together really, and
Mhm.
they've been into the industry a long time. So they, on a score from 1 to 100, they're a 98. And then you got another driver that's a 75. But I don't know really how much that can probably change the needle when it comes to rates. I mean, maybe carriers may pay a little bit more in terms of a percentage or a rate per mile, but it is a big problem. I mean, and there's no regulation, and and like you said, it's all supply and demand. So these shippers are going to pay what they're going to pay, but it is sad that there's been, in the last 25 years, there's really been no really rate increase. It's just kind of, it's been up and down.
Well, and I was a
Yeah.
kid, when they deregulated, you had a rate guide. That rate back then was $1.50 on some lanes,
Mhm.
and that was back when you were buying diesel fuel for 40 cents a gallon. And trucks were 50,000.
Right.
So when they deregulate, but they had to deregulate to get the economy moving because we were kind of stagnant. That was in the Jimmy Carter years. But that's kind of what's led to us now, this free market, and it's just cut, 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 cut. And I guess it's helped the economy move overall. And we found ways to move freight cheap. But ever since COVID, the costs have skyrocketed. The last trucks I
Yes.
bought, I paid 155,000 in 2019 for some Freightliners. One of my business partners bought 2022, bought some Peterbilts, and they were $245,000.
Mhm.
In respect, about like those Freightliners,
Yeah.
almost $100,000 more.
Yeah.
That's when the market skyrocketed.
Skyrocketed.
In April of
Yep.
2020, I remember it was right before I sold my trucking company in late 22, just right on time, right before the market just plummeted. I got real
Not
lucky.
good.
I got
Yeah.
real lucky
Yeah.
because, man, I mean it, and I remember, but I remind drivers before April of 2020, rates were extremely low. They were at the bottom
Yep.
of the barrel. I mean, I remember people talking about how are we going to make it, And then now we've got COVID to add to it. And then all of a sudden in April, they just shot up and everybody's making, drivers are going home with $7,000 in their pocket a week.
Yeah.
And, and
Yeah.
now they're like, now they've been
Everybody's
brought
going
back
out
down to
buying a
earth.
truck.
Yeah, they've been brought back down to earth, and now there's, they're struggling. So I don't think we can keep up with COVID numbers. I don't think that's sustainable by these shippers, but I would like to see some kind of rate increase. I do have one more. We're gonna wrap up here shortly, and Justin may have one more question for you, but I'm curious what you think on AI and how that's going to impact brokerage, autonomous trucks. Where do you see the industry going in the next 5 to 10 years?
CH has adapted to, they laid off a bunch of their sales force. They've
I saw their
really
program. Yeah.
AI has taken it's really jumped in there the last 2 years, and I see it growing. But it's also been really growing while we've been in a little bit of a freight recession. We go through a freight boom. I don't know how well AI is going to work because, as you guys know, as long as you've got guys in those seats, you're going to need a relationship. You're going to need, and I think AI can work, but I see a lot of companies and I get upset because I think people, oh, AI is the answer. AI is just a tool. It's like that wrench in your toolbox. You still got to have a good
Yeah.
mechanic to make.
I tell my older kids,
Yeah.
I'm like, AI is as good as what you enter into the AI and ask for it. If you're asking a dumb question, it's going to probably put out a dumb answer.
That's it.
That's true.
But you still got to have those people. I think it's something that we can use and adapt. But maybe it's just because I'm old and I don't want to lose that personal people business. I don't want to see it take our jobs, but I think it's going to play a more important role. I think we're going to see it. A lot of LT companies. You think about it today. Most LTL companies used to, you had your track and trace. You had a whole department of ladies, and they'd be calling, checking the freight, updating in the system. That you don't see that anymore. AI, the robots, that's taking
Mhm.
all that over.
Randy, before we get off here, looking forward, next 12 to 24 months, what do you see growth for yourself and your company, for Sunset as them? Are you hoping to grow? I know you said you were going to grow with the new agency. What's your plan there, in Phoenix? And about Sunset themselves, are they going to be looking to grow as well, or kind of wait out and see what the market does with the tariff kind of now being in place and coming over? What do you see over the next 2 years?
It's more of a hope than a see. What I hope we see. Um, I really think, as far as the freight industry, I think we might have reached a balance. We've lost a lot of carriers. Had too much capacity. The freight's really slowed down, but I think we've hit a bottom. And I haven't been a fan of the tariffs because it's got everybody on edge, and so a lot of people are in that wait and see mode. But I think as we start building some momentum, I'm hoping second, third quarter next year we'll start to see some growth, and you see the rates come back up. As far as us, we're planning for growth. The housing market's been a little slow, and we do a lot in the housing market. We haul a lot of product, garage
Mhm.
doors, windows, that sort of thing, flooring. We've seen that slow down. I think if interest rates come down, I think we'll see the whole economy start to build back up. I really do. Post COVID, nobody knew what to expect, but we had such a rampant inflation. Everything, freight, everything in the stores went up. It was crazy, but there was a demand. People were excited to get out. They've been cooped up.
Right.
And so the economy's really booming, but it was going to hit a wall. Now we've seen that last little slide. I think maybe we're back into what I used to call a normal pattern. I'm hoping we're back to that kind of nice, easy growth that we'll see here for the next maybe a year or 2 years.
Well, Randy, this
Okay.
has truly been a masterclass. Like I said from the beginning, I think it's really impressive. You don't see loyalty very often. Your time spent with Sunset as an agent and as a leader is really impressive. And there are a lot of young agents out there, both on the brokerage side and on the asset side. They're struggling, or they're just caught, in that middle ground. I remember when I was an agent, I couldn't get over 20 trucks. I couldn't get over 3 to 5 million. I was doing good, but I just could not get to that other side. What would say to some of those young guys that may be working, in the corporate office at TQL or CH Robinson, struggling to add accounts, or or those guys that are trying to grow their agency and trying to be the entrepreneur that we all aspire to be.
You've got to stick with it. It's we're gonna have good years and bad years, and you got to have years like this so you appreciate those good years.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
Yep.
22 from really 21 up through for us halfway through 23, we were blowing and going. It was great, and
yeah.
then we hit a wall, and then it's just been just ugh. And I was calling to schedule a delivery appointment. The lady hung up on me. I'm tired of you people calling me. I get 50 calls a day. I slammed the phone down. I called her back and I'm like, ma'am, I'm just trying to, I don't need your freight. I'm trying to schedule a delivery appointment. And she's like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. But it's, I know it's frustrating because, you're out there beating the phones and trying to get something to happen. And you just got to stick with it, get a sense of humor and, try to think outside the box, come up with, and that's what we've done. We hit walls and then we'll go specialize and we'll find a little niche of
Yeah.
something, and we'll kind
Mhm.
of focus on it.
A lot of it's just consistency, right? And don't give up. That's the
That's
biggest thing
right.
is, I see so many people just no matter what the industry is, they give up right before they're about to have success.
Success. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, also be okay to be told no. It's
yeah.
okay not to get that account or not to get what you're asking for. I mean,
It's just getting
I
you
just
closer to that next yes, right?
exactly, exactly. Well, and I think the more no's you get told when you do get a yes, you get more excited, which energizes you again to go through another 100 calls or whatever to try to land what you're going after. Randy, we want to thank you for your time today. I've really enjoyed it. I've learned a lot about you today. As John had said earlier, the just you being with one company for so long, that is, I haven't seen it, to be totally honest. And
I
so,
hope drivers take note of that too. I mean, drivers
yes,
like to puddle jump. They like to puddle jump
yes,
between carriers. Look at how successful a guy like Randy is, who's been with a company for so long, and what it can do for you. I mean, it's all about consistency. It's all about going, battling through the tough times, working with that carrier that you're with. The drivers really need to hear that,
yes, I
because they're
agree.
they're always looking for where is the grass greener.
As a fellow transportation person, I appreciate that because it's something remarkable, and if you need to stand by that, I appreciate that. But again, thank you for your time. For everyone listening, make sure you go check out sunsettrends.com. Go
You have an individual website or
Sunset Trends is fine, but I also have CliftonFreightServices.com.
okay,
okay, yeah, definitely,
cliftonfreightservices.com. Check them out.
yeah, go
Yeah.
check them
Thank you
out.
guys. Appreciate it. You're
Yeah,
leading.
no, appreciate it. If any of you out there want to secure your freight or stop the double brokering, look into our verification tools over at Ready Out. Again, we appreciate Mr. Randy today. We appreciate you, the listeners, for coming in and listening. I'm
Also, don't
Justin.
forget, donate to
Oh,
graycross.org.
yes.
Graycross.org. Randy, check them out. Graycross.org. We're involved with that 501c3 organization.
Hmm.
Giving to families who have lost loved ones on the road. Truckers are prioritized, but it's all families that have lost loved ones on the road or severely injured. So
Awesome.
graycross.org, new 501c3, really doing some good stuff.
Awesome.
Yes, sir.
Just check that out.
All right.
All
All right, everyone. Have a
Sounds
good
good.
one. Have a good one.
All right. All right.